Welcome back to Kin in Line. I make this part 82. I'm starting here with a large envelope in which I stored this collection of drawings, mainly doodle art, but art that has drawings that are linked somehow to the reporting that I was doing at the time. And I'd start by drawing your attention to this official envelope that probably came from some government department around about 1986, when I was active as a sort of political reporter on the Evening Post, and Barbara Orpen was doing the same, probably more effectively on the Herald. So it's interesting, they sent it to me or her. I don't know why they didn't send us separate copies of whatever this was. But that's just by way of introduction to the kind of stuff that I'm going to be showing here. So I kept this, I suspect this is from 1987. I obviously kept it just for these drawings, sort of doodle art, my classic sort of things. But here we see that this was a telex that I had sent. So it doesn't give the year, but the clue is in the actual telex. So Gert Knutzer was the telex operator, and I asked him to send this to the Minister, Kobie Coetzee, Minister of Justice in Pretoria, from myself, Evening Post. And it says, in the light of the recent release of Governor Mbeki, a security prisoner from Robben Island, and that happened in November 87, as a compassionate gesture by the state in the spirit of the Christmas season, could you please tell us, one, whether it is planned similarly to release any other security prisoners, particularly those interned at the same time as Mr. Mbeki, such as Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu, before Christmas or in the near future? Whether any of the estimated 200 people currently still in detention in the Eastern Cape under the state of emergency, particularly United Democratic Front leaders such as Mr. Edgar Ngoyi, Henry Fazi, Mkuseli Jack, Ivy Kleiner, and Aaron Redensberg, will be released before Christmas or in the near future. This will be the second Christmas in detention for many of them. So I doubt whether I ever got a response to this. But, I think at the time what I would have done was then said, the Evening Post has requested information regarding these detainees and political prisoners, and they have refused to comment. And that becomes a story in itself. So this is the kind of regime we were up against. I know the ANC have screwed up in recent years, but as a reporter, I was looking at this sort of information. So this is again printed out on our ATEX system, and December the 7th. Now I think this is about 1986 or so. And it says the Minister of Law and Order, Mr. Vlok, today gave his assurance that no child will be held in detention longer than is absolutely necessary. In a statement to SAPO, Vlok said, I am deeply concerned about the fact that children are being held in detention, and I wish to assure you that no child will be held in detention for longer than is absolutely necessary. He said it was a distressing thought that children have to be detained. However, law-abiding people have the right to be protected against the disruption of their daily lives, violence and intimidation. Yeah, so this is just, the ongoing repression of black people. But so anyway, I kept it for this drawing, which I'm trying to get into focus. Here we go. A little tap does the trick. And yeah, maybe this was Vlok, very broad-minded chap. He later apologized abjectly to the ANC and washed, I think, somebody's feet. Anyway, it was a bit late. So we'll come across similar sorts of things as we go through these. I obviously enjoyed using this printout paper. Every page has something of interest, I think. So here we've got Berger and Machu. So Marlene Berger was a journalist, as was Jimmy Machu, on the Post at the Times. So I think I found this page with those names written on it, and then I just got some animal to write that. Yeah, you'll see this is addressed to Andre Erasmus. He was the news editor on the Herald. And that isn't a portrait of him because I'm sure he didn't have two stomachs. I'd pick up the date here. 88. Yeah, so I'd moved across from the Evening Post to the Herald by this stage, I assume. I wasn't sure if it was in 80. Yeah, it was in 88, I think. Okay, so this is just another of my wacky little quick doodle arts. But here we've got, if I can just, it's not very clear, but from that same Andre Erasmus, the news editor. So his job was to compile the diary for every reporter each day. With our input, I often used to suggest stories to him and he would shove them on my diary, especially when I was a municipal reporter. That was dictated by what council meetings were being held, etc. So here are just some interesting, these are stories that were held. That's a big thing on newspapers. You do the story, work your butt off, and then they don't use it. So interview with newly elected president of the Rhodes SRC. And politics too important to be left to politicians. Business must become more involved, says Pierre Delaray, national president of PRISA, whatever that was. PE jobless figures, Rhodes' objection to de Klerk proposals, all largely political or socio-political stuff. Okay, so here we've got another of my brilliant wacky pictures. The thing about these is the line is really working in terms of drawing. And you don't get a chance really often when you're sketching from life to do, to really use such beautiful lines, if I don't mind my saying so. So this is an electric creature landed on the slopes of some planet. And what we have here is just a happy soul. I don't know if there was anything on this. No, I think that's just a general news type story. So while I was on the Post, they often used me as an artist to do little things that they'd put on top of a column on the leader page or something. And I did a number of ones of sort of illustrations or whatever you'd call these things on the 11th of December 1986, when I think this must have been under the state of emergency. There was a big clampdown on reporting so-called unrest. And so these are all, there's about 5 of them, of my interpretations. Here's press freedom being broken symbolically. And I used the legendary ostrich with his head in the sand. This is what we could do as white South Africans and just pretend nothing's wrong, you know. That's been my sort of policy with everything, even COVID, you know. You can take the ostrich option because ignorance is bliss. You know, you don't have to worry about anything. Just hope, pray everything comes out all right. Somebody has to actually correct the errors. So I had P.W. Botha blowing out the candle of press freedom. And a blindfolded press curbs man, follow me, South Africa. You know, like blind leading the blind. And finally, just a hand snuffing out the light. Can't remember if any of those were actually used. I'll just end with a couple of non-political things. I don't think there's anything of relevance on the other side, but this young wench clearly had my heart beguiled. Now she won't leave me, she's attached herself. And then there was always the threat of one of these lurking in the corridors of power. Yeah, so let me leave it at that. Let's just see if we can zoom in on him. Yeah. Cheers for now.